Hello and welcome back to Big Business Energy. My guest today, I'm very excited to have on, is Jack, the founder of Buyers Collective. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Jinx. So I guess let's just kick this off. This is a question I like to ask everyone when they come on is going in an Uber, going out for a nice dinner, let's say SK Steak and Oyster or something.
Yeah.
And the Uber driver says, hey mate, what do you like to do with yourself?
Yeah, so what I do is buy houses for people on the inner city around Brisbane within a 5 to 10k radius. We also do service people down on the Gold Coast, but yeah, buy houses for home buyers and investment properties for investors. I also service developers as I've got a bit of a background in property development.
Epic. So there's so much to unpack there, but I think let's just kick it off with, for people who don't necessarily understand or know what a buyer's agent does or is, can you just explain a bit more about it?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, as you're aware, a real estate agent represents the seller to get them the best possible price and the most favorable outcome. And with the buyer's agent, we work for the buyer to get them the best outcome, the best investment at the best possible price and with the most favorable terms to them. So basically, once a buyer engages with us, we have their criteria in mind and we start researching the market, sourcing properties on and off the market, looking at all the stock that's available. And then once we find suitable properties that match their criteria and that make it through the risk mitigation process that we go through, we conduct an in-house property valuation to determine the true value of the home, to make sure that the client never overpays for a property. And once we've conducted that, we formulate a strategy to be able to secure that property at the best possible price and with the most favourable terms to the buyer. And then we manage the sales process all the way through to settlement until they've got the keys in their hand.
Epic. Wow.
That's it, sort of summarised.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell, for sure.
And so what do you find is, I guess, the most common way that you're sourcing properties? Are there a lot of them off market, at auction? Like, what's sort of the trend at the moment?
Typically at the moment, because stock levels are so low, we're finding that pretty much, maybe 70 to 80% of our purchases are off market. Mm-hmm. We're finding a lot of properties are transacting off market and, just typically the reason why usually there's more off markets in a situation like now is because of interest rate rises. A lot of people that purchased at low interest rates are now copying it on the chin and struggling just to be able to scrape together enough money to actually cover their mortgage repayment. So then when they go to sell and a real estate agent arrives at their property, they usually ask for 5 to 10k for a marketing campaign. And a lot of people don't have that sort of money at the moment. So they'll try to sell the property off market and save that sort of coin.
Amazing. And so from a buyer's perspective, and you've already touched on this a little bit, but what are some of like the advantages and things like that to having a buyer's agent in your corner?
Yeah, so some of the advantages of working with a buyer's agent is that they've got industry knowledge, right? They've got connections. They understand the market really well. And having purchasing, negotiating on properties almost on a daily, if not weekly basis, really gives you a better understanding. It's sort of like any industry. If you're doing it full time and then someone was to come in, once or twice a year, to make a purchase, you're never going to be able to really get a better outcome than the person that does it full time.
100%.
So yeah, that's some of the most the biggest advantages I'd say are sourcing the properties and then being able to negotiate and just know what's a good property against a not so good property.
And so leading into that, what does make a good property? And
look, I think if the age-old golden rule is location, location, location. So if you just focus on location, I think we've just basically seen it through the market changes recently, going from the COVID boom into a high interest rate environment. All the people that were looking to buy houses on the inner city that were priced out now because of higher interest rates, they're unable to afford those sort of properties. Instead of compromising on location, what they're doing now is compromising on the actual home itself and downsizing to, say, a townhouse or an apartment because they don't want to give up on that location. as they say, is that you can always change your house, but you can't change the position of it. So if you focus on the location in, you know, a scarce market in a city within that 5 to 10K radius, you know, that does a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
And so would you say a lot of the buyers that you tend to cater, like what sort of market are we looking in? Are we looking in sort of more a high end, the investors? Like what sort of, give us a rundown of who your primary, I guess, audience is?
Look, it does change depending on the market, but at the moment would say predominantly we're servicing home buyers. Investors has sort of gone a little bit quieter. It's still pretty strong. But it just, it depends on the market. Right now it's home buyers, and you know, a lot of the developers, the seasoned developers that know what they're doing are still around. A lot of the cowboys and spruikers have left the market, which is good. You know, it sort of cleans the tide and it just brings it back to where it needs to be.
Absolutely. And so I'm just trying to think how to word this. I guess from your perspective, and how have you seen the market sort of shift over the last couple of months? And obviously you said like stock is pretty low at the moment. So how do you see like the foreseeable future of the market, and how are you currently sort of finding those opportunities in the market? Yeah,
so how I'm finding the market at the moment is, you know, it's the sentiment's getting better around, you know, buying again as interest rates have been left on hold. Today is actually the day that the Federal Reserve may lift or hold again. So today will obviously provide some more changes in the marketplace. But we've found that property prices have been increasing slightly over the past 6 months consecutively. And, you know, and because of the interest rates being on hold the last couple of months, that has brought a lot more confidence back into the market. We are seeing a lot of inquiries coming in from overseas, international buyers from, say, the UK, the US, China as well. Australia is a safe haven. You know, it is a great place to park your cash if you're wanting to do that. You know, we're really distance ourselves from the war, and 100%. You know, we've always sort of our property market's gone, you know, up and down in the short term, but overall over the past 50, 100 years, it's really performed quite strongly.
I agree. And so from there, where do you sort of see, like in terms of Brisbane market, obviously we've got a lot of new developments, the casino, things like that. Where do you sort of see that trajectory heading for Brisbane?
Yeah, I think there's huge potential in Brisbane, and for buyers or anyone that's owning property currently will see significant growth in the near term. I believe that there probably will be another boom within the next 10 years here in Queensland and in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. For sure. Just simple fundamentals, supply and demand, and there's simply huge demand and not enough supply to service the amount of immigration coming from interstate and internationally. The numbers are huge. As you're aware, there's a rental crisis with, you know, vacancy rates at all times lows, and you know, going to open homes, there's still, you know, many buyers around. There's lots of people. There's multiple offers on a lot of property. We're finding that the higher end of the market is a lot stronger than say under $1 million. You know, it's still quite strong, but it's a little bit quieter.
And is there a difference in the way you would necessarily approach and find a property that is necessarily in that more high-end market as opposed to something a little bit more affordable?
The approach stays the same with each client in a home purchase. I guess with the higher end stuff, it depends on the type of stock and the criteria, obviously location as well. But I guess what we do is when we go in to find a property, we really treat each client as if, you know, they're family. But not only that, if, you know, keeping their criteria in mind, would we actually purchase this? Would I purchase this home and add it to my portfolio? Or if I was starting a family or I had a family, would I buy this property? Is it a good quality home? And that's sort of where we lead from, and we find that we can't really have a bad outcome if we always go with that at the forefront of our mind.
100%.
So that's sort of how we approach it. I don't know if that really answers the question, but yeah.
100%. Like I feel at the end of the day, we're all people, right? And people do business with people.
Yeah.
And I feel like it can get very, at times, you know, if you don't take that approach, very transactional and you're like just a number. So it's cool to actually see, like you said, you take the time, dive into the client.
Yeah, that's not like when we have a client engage with us, a lot of the time we try to educate the client about, you know, the pros and cons of one property against another property, why this one, you know, might be fetching a higher price compared to this one, location, and especially when we're in a inner city location, you know, when it comes down to location, it can differ from street to street quite comparably. So it's important to understand the difference in these sort of areas and, you know, what makes a good property. So we really focus on educating the client. There's a lot of communication throughout the whole process to make sure that they're 100% comfortable. You know, they're getting enough information, enough nurturing to understand about the property market and their purchase that they're going to make.
Amazing. And so what would be some advice for people, and this is, I guess, a two-part question, but for someone who's looking to go interstate and moving and sourcing a property, and then also someone, let's say, who, for example, like myself, where I'm currently on the suburbs and I'd look to move inner city, what would be some advice for those sorts of people?
Like on where to recommend a purchase?
Yeah, recommend. Like I think, you know, is there certain key elements or things that we could potentially look out for to ensure that we're sort of, I guess, getting value for money and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. So checking out high demand suburbs that, you know, have a demographic of, you know, home buyers over renters, and usually the inner city locations will have that. But a lot of when you go to buy a property on the inner city, a lot of the times you want to think about transport, you want to think about amenities, you know, access points and how easy it is maybe to get to the M1 and, you know, duck down to the Goldie and back. You want to have a look at all these different things. If it's around, you know, nice cafes, shops, what the street sort of feels like. So before, you know, making a purchase, it's always good to do drive-bys the home in the morning, in the evening, and, you know, even on the weekends to make sure, you know, that you're not maybe next to a bad neighbor, or you just never know. So it's always good to check out those things. One of the biggest factors for home buyers would be to check in Brisbane would be the flood mapping. Because as everyone knows, it does flood, and it's not every 100 years or, you know, every 1,000 years that they say. It does happen more often now.
Yes.
So that would probably be the biggest thing to look out for when making a purchase. Yeah.
Crazy. I remember the whole street out the front here was like underwater, like insane. Were you affected at all, or?
No, I wasn't affected at all, but
that's good.
Yeah, I do know people that did get their homes, you know, wiped out, and a lot of people that didn't have insurance that covered it.
Wow.
You know, the floods and stuff like that. And that really, you know, if you buy a property and you get hit by something like that, or if you just buy an underperforming property, it can stagnate you, and, you know, it can cost you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, and set you back years. Yeah. Whereas if you do, you know, buy a quality property, or you employ a buyer's agent to help you buy a quality home, you know, that can propel you and leverage into new properties in the future, and it can really help set your whole life up.
Definitely.
So I guess, you know, a lot of the time some people say, oh, buyer's agents are only for rich people, or and I just don't think that that's true, because the simple factor is that if you don't know the market, you don't know what you're doing, maybe negotiation isn't, you know, your strong suit, and you don't know how to check what makes a quality property, the flood mapping, bushfire hazards, you know, future suburb development. These different factors can impact your property in a positive or a negative manner. And if you buy the wrong property, it can really stuff you up.
100%. And so you also mentioned how Buyers Collective is starting to branch out into the Gold Coast.
Yeah. So we have another buyer's agent down towards on the Gold Coast that services that region.
Epic.
We also service home buyers in the Byron Bay area as well. It's not really a big focus of ours. I grew up in Byron Bay, so I know the market really well there. So I feel confident being able to help home buyers in the Byron Bay region. I've also lived on the Gold Coast for quite a while, so I understand that market really, really well. And I guess our biggest focus is Brisbane inner city, and that's where our core of our business is. And though we do like to service those other locations, those beachside areas where, you know, there's really lifestyle quality homes.
For sure. And is the market, is there much difference in the market between Gold Coast and Brisbane you're finding? Or?
Yeah, look, there's completely different markets in Brisbane, you know, on different sides of the city and different suburbs. You know, some areas are performing much better than others, and the Gold Coast is similar to that, though both markets are really quite strong and resilient. And just because of the lifestyle factors that both offer, Brisbane being more of an urban lifestyle and the Gold Coast having that beachside lifestyle is really appealing to buyers, especially when you think about Sydney and Melbourne and the prices there is crazy, you know, really unaffordable for most, whereas buying up here, you get a lot more bang for buck.
For sure. And so I want to flip the coin for a second and talk, what would be, I guess, some of the advice you would have for, I guess, obviously real estate agents and buyers agents will tend to cross paths. What would be some of the advice to give to ensure, I guess, not necessarily a smooth working relationship, but some advice when working together?
I guess just understanding that you want a win-win scenario. Both parties want a win-win, right? So it's not about you should never go about the transaction of, oh no, I'm going to get this better deal and they're going to lose out or anything like that. It's about a win-win scenario. You want a great outcome for your seller, and you know, we want a great outcome for our buyer. And it's about bridging that gap between the two and help educating each other on where both parties sits in relation to making that deal come together, and you know, what their preferences are and terms. And if you know, if a real estate agent can really communicate what that seller's, you know, main objective is, if they want a delayed settlement, they want a shorter settlement, maybe they want some, you know, different terms, and then really tailoring your offer as a buyer or as a buyer's agent to accommodate a lot of those things if you can, it will help make the transaction go a lot smoother.
And so you've opened up Buyers Collective, which is amazing, and obviously doing really well and everything, which is great to hear, especially in today's market as well. And if you're looking to hire, let's say, a buyer's agent, what sort of person are you looking for? Do you have any advice for a buyer's agent or anything?
The type of person that I'd look for when hiring a buyer's agent is someone that's really committed, that's passionate about property. I think having, you know, a background in property or something to do with property, whether it be development or you're a real estate agent or something along those lines, really gives you an edge in the marketplace. And just understanding, you know, the different terms, the way the sales process is, and how to navigate the property market is really essential. But I think the main thing for me would be the type of person. They'd have to be committed, they have to be motivated, they have to be curious, they have to be willing to learn. All those factors are big things that I'd look at.
Amazing. And so what's sort of the goal for the foreseeable future for yourself, like personally, and also for Buyers Collective and so on?
Look, I'm really passionate about helping people buy property, and I just love making sure that people have a great outcome when they go to purchase. So, you know, what's next for Buyers Collective is just to keep doing what we're doing, keep servicing buyers, making sure that we're doing quality purchases, people are getting the best outcomes that they can get, and, you know, just slowly expand. We don't want to expand too quickly. We like being a boutique buyer's agency, and, you know, we only take on a small number of clients each month to keep the quality of the service really high. And we like having it like that at the time being.
And so from there, sorry, I'm just trying to word it. I always I'm thinking about what I want to say, and I get to it, I'm like, oh. And
Yeah, so I guess for us as a company, we really want to keep focusing on the home buyer aspect of the business. You know, some buyers agencies have, the investor model where they sort of like borderless and they go into different states and stuff like this. We're not really interested in going that avenue at all. We really focus on the home buyers, servicing those types of buyers. We do enjoy servicing investors as well, but we will just stick to Brisbane and Gold Coast for those investment properties.
Yeah.
We're finding that, you know, some of the best places to buy right now, obviously leading up to the Olympic Games, is here in Brisbane.
Definitely.
There are some great opportunities on the Gold Coast as well, but you know, if you think about the government spending between $5 and $8 billion on infrastructure over the next, 9 years,
Crazy.
You know, does that get you excited about the direction that the city's going in?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's where you should be buying in where you see an area or a city, where you see that in the near future. Do you think that Brisbane's going to be better in 10 years, or do you think it's going to be worse? If you think it's going to be a better location, then that might be an area to invest in, yeah?
100%.
So that's sort of, the easy way to think about when you go to invest. Obviously, you still have to be strategic when it comes to locations and the types of property.
Yep.
But generally, when you're thinking about location, if you're thinking Adelaide, you're thinking Melbourne, you're thinking Brisbane, you're thinking Sydney or Gold Coast or Perth, I think historically looking at the way Brisbane's performed, and now that we've got the Olympic Games, record immigration, international buyers coming back into the market, record spending, jobs.
Interstate.
You've just got so many fundamentals playing out here over the next 9 years.
Yeah.
Leading up to those games, that it just makes it really attractive for both home buyers and investors.
1,000% agree.
Yeah.
It's going to be super exciting once everything's finished. And I feel from when you started Buyers Collective and everything like that, how have you seen it sort of like transition and just grow since that time?
Yeah, like Brisbane's just been really strong. Like, look, it was a little bit quieter last year as the interest rates were rising, but there were still buyers around. People were just a little bit more cautious back then.
For sure.
So, yeah, it's really, at the moment, it's really strong. Lots of buyers and just still very little stock. I think if you're a developer and you can produce quality stock and bring it to market, right now, you're getting premiums, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm.
And so for buyers, what would be the right time through, I guess, their property journey to sort of look at approaching a buyer's agent? Is it right at the beginning when they're just starting to look? Is it a bit further on where they're ready to commit and they've got that money there ready? Like, where's sort of the best sweet spot to be like, let's hit up a buyer's agent now, we're ready?
I think right at the beginning, as you get your pre-approval or before, even just to start having discussions, have a meeting. Finding the right buyer's agent is quite important because, different buyer's agents have come from different industries and, it's really important to get someone that's got a track record, that's, buying property, that's got, positive reviews, that's, showcases their work, and you can see the locations that they're purchasing in, and sort of determine it from there. You do really have to make sure that you're a good fit because there is a lot of communication throughout the whole process. You want to make sure that you're a personality match. And yeah, like I always say that to people that we can't actually help everyone. We have to be really selective with who we do help because some people might have, unrealistic expectations with what they can achieve with their budget and location. So we're really selective with who we work with, and we've got to make sure that they're a good match for us.
Awesome. And so how do you guys make it feasible? So do you take a cut from the buyer, from the seller? Like, how does it work? I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
So basically, as a buyer's agent, when you go to engage with us, you usually pay an upfront fee to engage our service. It's classified as an engagement fee. That basically will allow us to go and research the market and source the property for you. It also, shows on your end that you're committed to making the purchase and that you're a serious buyer. And then once we've sourced the property and negotiated the property at the best price with the most favourable terms, and you go unconditional, there is a success fee paid. Typically, it may be a flat fee agreed upon in the first meeting.
Yep.
And, you know, if it's a different type of purchase, it's really purchase dependent, but a lot of the time it will just be a percentage of the value of the home, whether that be 2%, 2.5%, some people charge 3%.
Awesome. Yeah. So very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you have anything else that you would love to leave people with or give any advice or information on? Like,
look, if you're looking for a buyer's agent, Buyers Collective, give us a call.
That's it. So that was my next thing. Is like where can they find you as well? Like where because obviously how I found you in that is you hit socials very heavily, and I'd actually love to talk about that before we start to round out. Is that you've put a lot of effort into having high quality content and marketing. Have you found that helped the business and things like that? Or
hugely. A lot of people don't pay enough attention to marketing on social media. Everyone's on Instagram right now, and that's where a lot of people look at your business to see what you guys do, to see who you are, you know, to sort of familiarize themselves with you and your business. So I think it's really important to showcase your work, who you are, what you guys do, provide value. I think is, if you're a business owner, you know, you can never sell a secret, they say. So provide value, and you know, the business will follow. So for me, our socials, I go hard on the socials to provide value, to showcase our work, to let buyers know that we're, you know, in the field, we're buying property and we're servicing clients every day, every week. And, you know, we take great pride in that, and buying in some of the best locations around Brisbane and the Gold Coast, you know. So for me, it's really essential to be on top of those sorts of things. And, you know, we get quite a lot of inquiries through our social channels because of that.
Amazing. Yeah, so there is a lot of leads and things that come through on this.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, probably most of our business.
Yeah, wow. Amazing. And so for people who do want to find out more info, want to get in touch with you to inquire about your services, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can go to our website at www.buyerscollective.com.au, or you can just check us out on Instagram, which is just Buyers Collective, and send us through an inquiry.
Happy days.
Or give me a call,
Epic. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we send this out?
I think that's it.
Epic. Thank you so much, man, for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Boom.
Great chat.
Boom. Happy days.
Watch me now. Watch me now.